without question. I'd much rather be undefeated, going into the Auburn Georgia Tech game at the end of the year and Todd Gurley have 700 yards rushing but be healthy than Todd Gurley have 1,300 yards rushing going into the Auburn Georgia Tech games but be nursing a bum ankle like he was half the year last year. We need him healthy, particularly at the end of the year, but like I said, all year. And if he had, if he's in there, if he's in the Heisman talk at the end, that's great. If Georgia's 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, and he's not in the Heisman conversation, that's okay too. But we need a healthy Todd Gurley. He's going to be the key to the offense this year for sure. Our ground game in general, I think, is going to be key this year to help take some of the pressure off of Hudson Mason. And, let's face it, in today's college football, particularly in the SEC, and the NFL is the same way, if you have one running back, you have no running backs. You have to have 2 and 3 guys that you can depend on. You just have to. So it's not just Alabama and Georgia with the running back rotation. Alabama and Georgia are blessed that they have 3 or 4 starting running backs on their team at the same time. A lot of schools can't say that. A lot of schools play 3 and 4 running backs, but it's obvious that their running back 2, running back 3, and running back 4 are not starter caliber running backs. At Georgia, that's just not the case. We've got, if I had to bet right now, I think the over-under on number of NFL running backs on Georgia's roster right now, the over-under would be 3. I think that's a pretty fair estimate on how many NFL running backs are on Georgia's roster right now. The over-under would be 3.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think those obvious choices are Gurley and Marshall, and if he does as good as he did last year, I could actually see Brendan Douglas in the NFL as a fullback. Couldn't you see that?
I can see it all day long.
That dude is just being able to run over people like that. Because I remember it like it was yesterday, just watching that South Carolina game, and his first carry, the dude ran over 3 people. I was like, oh, shit, who is this? The guy's a monster. And we were talking about some of the playmakers on offense. We didn't even, neither one of us mention them. Quavon Hicks. Now, this guy against Clemson, you could go back and look at the game from last year. A fullback busting off 30 and 40-yard runs, that just does not happen every day. He's actually going to be splitting some time this season at tight end due to our depth issues. Our starter will be Jay Rome, but throughout his time at Georgia, he's had some injury issues, so it's really not sure how much Jay Rome's going to be able to play on a consistent basis, but Quavon Hicks splitting time, tight end, and fullback. I know we're mostly going to use Quavon as a blocking tight end. He's not really one of those receiving types. Of course, knowing Bobo, he could utilize that, but I do know that that's going to have to be worked on because he's not really known for his hands as far as receiving, but that guy can run. So as far as our backfield's concerned, got to throw in Quavon, fullback. In my opinion, best in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think regardless, I think he probably will split some time between tight end and fullback. And even if he's playing tight end the majority of the time, I think you're going to see a lot of Quavon Hicks at fullback on goal-to-go situations, first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, inside the 1, 2, 3 yard line, things like that, because he's a dump truck coming through the hole. It's like trying to tackle an oak tree. He's huge, and he can clear out 1, 2 linemen at a time. He's just a monster.
Yeah, I think he was at 265 or 270 last year was his official weight. Now you're talking about, and this guy's not just all out, fat. This guy's chiseled. Like Quavon is a rock. You get hit by him, it's like, it looks like he's going to you're getting hit with a freight train, and this guy's huge. And to see somebody that big constantly run off 30 and 40-yard runs, that's unheard of, man, especially a fullback. When's the last time you've seen a fullback on multiple games, at least once a game, bust off 30-yard run? That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely think that I think Bobo's got some plans for him this season. After last year, I don't see why Bobo wouldn't come up for some, packages for him at tight end or even, definitely fullback. But I think he can be used as a receiving tight end. He's already, a fullback. I mean, I know he's not known for receiving, but that can be worked on. I know Bobo can put together a package or two for him. I mean, that's wouldn't be that hard. The guy you can't bring down like just one guy. It's like it's going to take 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's I mean, you do not want to look up and see him barreling down on you full speed. That's something you do not want to see.
No, hell no. But like speaking of what you want, like what do you want to see? Now let me ask you this, Uncle Lou. I know this may make your mind work more than you're accustomed to, but what's your favorite game that you can remember as far as your best UGA game you've ever attended?
1978. So I wasn't, I don't remember much of the early 80s. And obviously I didn't go to any game. I never saw Herschel play or anything like that. But without question, in my adult lifetime, my best memory at Sanford Stadium, I was at the game when we finally beat Tennessee. It was a night game, and the goalpost came down.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And that was memorable. Now I can remember the week leading up to that game. Some talk going back and forth that if the Dogs won, the goalposts were coming down. Now the goalposts had never been torn down at Sanford Stadium ever in the history of the stadium, and to be there at that game and to have it be such a good game. I mean, it's funny. You want to be. We always say we want to beat every team we play 50-0. But honestly, when you're at a game that's close like that one was, those are the games that you remember, those nail biters, not the blowouts. Sure, those are fun to see every once in a while, score 40, 50 points, something like that. But to be at Sanford Stadium at night when we finally beat Tennessee, the goalpost came down. It's probably the only time I'll ever be on Sanford, on the field at Sanford Stadium. It was unbelievable. I mean, all the players, you walk right up to the players, shake their hand, pat them on the back. The coaches, the atmosphere that night was just unbelievable. And believe it or not, Uncle Lou is pretty good friends with a Tennessee fan in Augusta where I live. And that's who I went to the game with. And we had tickets in the student section at Sanford Stadium, and he had a Tennessee shirt on the ride up there, but he took it off before he went into the stadium. He didn't want to attract any attention to himself, I guess. But I'll never forget the last 7 or 8 minutes of the game. We left the student section and went down to one of the end zones, and he went up in the stands and sat with the Tennessee band while me and 25,000 other people stormed the field. And I mean, that'll be one of those memories, I take to the grave with me. I'll never forget it. It was unbelievable. And, if I live to be 150 years old, I'll never have another experience like that. And it was amazing.
All right. Just to, mention before, because you were talking about, Tennessee and everything. One thing I do have to mention is that Lane Kiffin did destroy Tennessee in the fact that they lost 4 years of recruits. What would Georgia do without 4 years of recruits?
Okay, say that last part, Ray. I caught most of that, but the volume, I guess, is a little low.
All right, what would Georgia do if for 4 straight years they did not have, their recruiting class? That's how bad Lane Kiffin screwed them up.
Well, see, that's the thing. The University of Georgia is not stupid enough to hire Lane Kiffin, so we're not stupid enough to put ourselves in that position. So, in other words, it would never happen.
Yeah, it would never happen. But to expound on your theory, no school realistically can overcome that. I mean, if you look back through the history at which programs have received the quote-unquote death penalty, Southern Cal most recently, the worst thing you can do to a football team is cut the number of scholarships they're allowed to give out. That's the worst thing you can do. It's a numbers game. Right now, every team's allowed to offer the same number of scholars a year. You have the same number of players on your team. you start cutting those numbers down, the talent pool is gonna drop. So, what happened. There's nothing anybody could do about it. Now, the coaches that came in after that knew the situation when they took the job. Look, there's no two ways about it. Lane Kiffin screwed over Tennessee. Now, I hate Lane Kiffin, and I hate Tennessee, but if I had to take a side in that squabble, I'm on the side of Tennessee. What Lane Kiffin did was dirty. That's one of the games I'm looking forward to most this year is the Tennessee-Alabama game. It's in Knoxville. Lane Kiffin has to come back there. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, the end.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But now I've got a couple. Now, as far as the best games I've ever attended, I've got two. It's like I can't choose one of them to be ahead of the other. It's like both of them, in my opinion, are on the same level. One of them is 2007 Blackout. Now, you want to talk about loud. Loud. It's like all the noise, like your brain is sitting there rattling in your head against your skull. You can't even hear anything. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just insane. And, of course, I believe that score ended up being, it was like 45-21 or something like that. It was just one of those atmospheres that it's just you can't accomplish that every week. Granted, the stadium is loud every week, but that particular night it was on like an epic scale. Like it was crazy, and I think everybody that knows me knows how much I hate Auburn. So the fact that we did that and we beat Auburn, that just made my entire rest of the year. I mean, we could have went on to lose every other game after that, but I would still been on the high because, it was Auburn and it was the Blackout and it was, oh man, I guess you just had to been there. I mean, it was insane. My other game would definitely be the 2009. I don't see this is it's like, I don't know. I mean, this is just showing you how much I hate Auburn, but 2009 Georgia Auburn. Now, one of the guys, he don't do videos anymore. But he had never been to a Georgia Auburn game. Period. He's a big time Georgia fan, and he had never been to one of the rivalry games. So we actually, I met up with him in Athens, along with a couple other people who made videos for Georgia at the time, and I actually got him his first ticket to his very first Georgia Auburn game. And early on, it looked like we were in for a long night. We were down 14-0, and of course, this is when Joe Cox was quarterback, and Joe Cox pulled off something that night. It was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. We were down 14-0, and he engineers the comeback, and we ended up winning that game. And, of course, we go from being like, what the hell's going on, to, yes, we won. It was, I guess, I put that game up there because we were down early 14-0, and just the sheer fact that Joe Cox was able to lead that team back and get the win, my emotion went from depressed to instant joy, I guess you would say. So that's why I put that game up there, and I actually was responsible for helping a fellow Georgia fan see his very first Georgia-Auburn, rivalry game. So, despite what anybody says about me, if I can help a Georgia fan go see his first rivalry game, hey man, I'm there. So to me, that's my two games that I really, really enjoyed going to. Oh, you still there, Lou?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, didn't hear you. Thought we lost you. Okay. But what about?
I'm sorry, I missed that 2007 Blackout game. That's probably the one game. If I could go to any one game in the last 10 or 15 years that I didn't go to, it would probably be that first Blackout game, or the Florida game that same year where the whole team rushed the end zone when Noshawn jumped over the top and that whole thing.
I wish I could have. Oh man, I wish I could have made that game. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to that game. But yeah, that's one I wish I could have went to.
Yeah,
but that blackout was epic.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the thing is too, it's like we catch so much crap for that, because that same year we played Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl, who had no business being on the same field as us, so let's be real, and we blacked them out. And then we decided to do the blackout against Alabama.